I got another one of those emails from some woman asking sort of like to get to know us for the purpose of joining the family.
Grab yourself a fresh cup of coffee.
Grab yourself a fresh cup of coffee and get comfortable, because what I'm about to reveal will make you rethink everything you believed about Kody Brown's so-called spiritual journey. Imagine this. It's a calm Tuesday night, and one of our most loyal viewers is doing what so many of us do: scrolling through social media, connecting the dots, and playing detective in our own living rooms. This is the type of woman who notices when the grocery store quietly shifts the cereal aisle, and who can recall exactly what someone wore to their daughter's wedding 3 years ago. On this particular evening, she's comparing recent Sister Wives updates when something unusual grabs her attention: a pattern, a trail of digital breadcrumbs that uncovers a truth so explosive it makes Kody's infamous "I didn't love you" confession feel like nothing more than small talk at her Sunday church potluck. Listen, I have this wife. Her name is Robyn, and she would never let me do anything naughty as bad as I want to do it. Our sharp-eyed viewer picks up on something unusual in Kody's online behavior. It's not the typical posts about his curls or those vague quotes about loyalty. No, this is different. This feels intentional, almost calculated, the kind of online activity that any woman who's ever questioned a partner's honesty would instantly recognize. So she starts saving screenshots, marking down timestamps, and carefully comparing his public claims about being finished with polygamy against the reality of his digital trail. And what she finds is staggering. It's a textbook example of saying one thing while doing the complete opposite. Because while Kody has spent months insisting to anyone who will listen that plural marriage is disgusting and that he'll never go down that road again, I would love healing with Mary. I would love healing with Janelle. I would love healing with Christine. Kody's online activity paints a completely different picture. He's not just responding to women who reach out to him like season 20 previews might suggest. He's the one seeking them out. The proof is there: email exchanges, dating site activity, and conversations that might have started off casually but quickly shifted toward talk of spiritual families and so-called divine arrangements. Our digital detective has carefully tracked what looks like a deliberate, ongoing effort to secure wife number 5. But this is where the story takes a turn that will infuriate every mother watching. While Kody is busy hunting for his next spiritual partner, polishing his messages to new prospects, and possibly planning how to weave them into the family dynamic, his real children, the ones who already exist and need him, can't even get a simple phone call returned.
I don't want to talk to Kody ever again.
The timeline is heartbreaking. The very weeks Kody is busy chasing new women online line up almost exactly with missed calls, forgotten birthdays, and unanswered texts from kids who just want their dad to be there. According to one source close to the family, while Kody was spending hours carefully writing messages to possible new wives, her own daughter Truly's calls were going straight to voicemail for days. And this isn't rumor and it's not hearsay. It's a recorded pattern that lays bare exactly where Kody Brown's priorities really are. But here's the shocking part. His search for wife number 5 overlaps with something much more serious. Our digital detective has pieced together the children's side of this painful story. Because while Kody is allegedly pouring his energy into sending romantic messages to strangers, his children, he already has, are living through what can almost be described as real-time emotional abandonment. How much longer until you just realize that he's an ass? Now, picture Truly, a teenager, just trying to hold on to some kind of relationship with her dad. Sources close to the family say her efforts, simple text about school events, asking for advice, or inviting him to spend time together, are often met with silence. Not for hours, but for days, sometimes even weeks. And during those very same stretches of time, Kody's online activity shows him fully engaged in long conversations with other women, discussing the idea of becoming part of his so-called spiritual family. And it doesn't stop with Truly. Reports suggest multiple Brown children have faced the same heartbreaking treatment. Phone calls that never get returned because their father is too busy courting strangers online. Birthday messages sitting unanswered while Kody is busy drafting thoughtful replies to women he's never even met in person. One of the most painful examples comes from what sources describe as a Father's Day incident. While several of his kids reached out with messages and invitations to spend the day together, Kody was allegedly wrapped up in a deep conversation with a potential plural wife, asking about her spiritual readiness and whether she'd consider moving to Arizona. His children's messages left unread until the following Tuesday. I wanted to apologize with all my heart. I said I didn't love you. That wasn't true. Every mom who's ever balanced a family calendar knows this simple truth. You make time for what matters most. If Kody can spend hours crafting long, thoughtful messages to potential wives filled with spiritual advice and explanations of family dynamics, then he absolutely has time to reply to his daughter's text about her soccer game. But here's where things shift from neglect to calculation. The digital evidence shows Kody isn't just sitting back and responding to women who approach him. He's actively searching. He's digging into fundamentalist dating sites, joining online forums for spiritual families, and even reaching out through mutual contacts and polygamous circles. Meanwhile, his own kids are left wondering why his father has time to bond with complete strangers but can't seem to remember their middle names. Why he'll put energy into explaining plural marriage to a woman who's never even lived it, yet won't spend 10 minutes on the phone with the children who've been living those realities their whole lives. And here's the coolest twist. While Kody's out shopping for someone new to shower with attention, his real children are forced into an invisible competition with fantasies. They're losing their father's focus to women who don't even exist in their world yet. This kind of emotional neglect is unfolding at the exact same time Kody is trying to convince his ex-wives that he's different now, that he's sorry, that he's ready to repair old wounds. But why suddenly now? To answer that, we need to step back in time, because Kody's current wife hunting spree makes far more sense when you look at his decades-long pattern of romantic pursuit and spiritual manipulation. This isn't new territory for Kody. He's been refining the process of wife acquisition since the 1990s, and every single time, the pattern has looked almost identical to what we're seeing now. Let's go back to the beginning, with the original Mrs. Brown, Mary. In 1990, she was young, hopeful, and truly believed in the spiritual calling of plural marriage. Kody, meanwhile, played the role of the charming, fundamentalist heartthrob, sweeping her off her feet with talk of eternal families and divine purpose. Within 3 years, Janelle entered the picture. Just 2 years after that, Christine followed. The cycle was clear.
Step 1, identify a woman searching for spiritual fulfillment. Step 2, shower her with religious promises and personal attention. Step 3, slowly draw her into his vision of a plural family. And here's what many women who's managed a household while someone else makes the big choices will recognize instantly. Each new wife came during a time of stress or transition. Mary was isolated and searching for a deeper meaning. Janelle was coping with family upheaval and wanted stability. Christine was a young mom looking for support and raising her kids. Kody wasn't just finding wives. He was targeting women in vulnerable moments and convincing them that joining his family was the solution. By the time Robyn entered in 2010, the method had been polished to perfection. Robyn was a divorced mother of 3, struggling both financially and emotionally. And in stepped Kody with his well-rehearsed spiritual courtship, promising eternal love and a safety net of family support. The difference this time, He'd mastered the script so completely that Robyn didn't just become another wife. She became the favorite, the one who would eventually help him push the others aside. Here's where things get really interesting. From a behavioral psychology standpoint, every one of Kody's courtships has followed the same formula, showering women with nonstop attention, diving into spiritual conversations, and promising a brighter future inside the principal. He would spend hours learning their hopes and fears, figuring out their weak spots, and shaping himself into exactly what they thought they needed. Sound familiar? Because that's exactly what our digital detective has uncovered in his latest wife hunting campaign. The same spiritual buzzwords, the same promises of divine destiny, the same carefully crafted attention designed to make a vulnerable woman feel chosen, special, and destined for something greater. But here's the darker truth about this pattern. Every single new wife has coincided with either a financial opportunity or a boost to Kody's public image. These women weren't just spiritual partners. They were acquisitions, stepping stones that helped him build brand Kody. And yet this time feels different. His approach now exposes the huge gap between the image he sells on camera and the reality of his private life. Think about the audacity here. Less than 12 months ago, Kody Brown stood on national television and declared that plural marriage wasn't just difficult or complicated. He called it repulsive. He swore he would never, ever live polygamy again. He told the world the very idea made him sick. He once said he couldn't understand how anyone would ever choose such a life. Yet today, evidence shows something very different. Our digital detective has gathered clear proof that Kody is now actively pursuing a fifth wife. The same man who went on camera to say polygamy was disgusting is privately searching for his next spiritual partner. The double standard is hard to ignore. What makes this even more concerning is the timing. During season 19 interviews, when he was telling the public that plural marriage had destroyed his family, he was reportedly already exploring new options. People connected to the production say that while Kody was filming scenes about his happy, monogamous life with Robyn, he was also keeping in touch with women interested in plural marriage. This means that while viewers saw him crying at interviews about the pain of polygamy, his phone was receiving messages from women he was considering as new wives. This shows a clear pattern. He has perfected the ability to appear repentant in public while preparing for something very different in private. The timeline makes it easy to see. In January 2024, he said he would never live polygamy again. By March 2024, he had already made first contact with a possible fifth wife. In June 2024, he was carrying on multiple conversations with women about plural marriage. By September 2024, he was filming season 20, presenting himself on camera as a changed man on a redemption tour with his ex-wives. Anyone who has ever caught someone being dishonest will recognize this. The bold public statements that sound too firm, the private actions that tell the opposite story, and the careful timing meant to shape how others see him while he lives a different reality. But there's something even darker about this particular lie. Kody isn't just misleading the public or the show's production team. He's also hiding the truth from his only remaining wife, Robyn. Sources say she has no idea how far his wife shopping has actually gone. The same woman who has stood by him, defending their supposedly monogamous and complete marriage, is being kept in the dark about his real intentions. On the surface, Kody still uses the same spiritual language he always has, but this time his actions feel less about faith and more about personal gain. When he pursued his earlier marriages, there was at least the appearance of religious devotion. Now it feels entirely about ego, about his desperate attempt to rebuild a world where he is once again the center of attention and admiration. And here's where the story takes a truly unsettling turn. The timing of this wife hunt lines up perfectly with deeper motives that many longtime viewers and relationship experts are calling out. For those who have lived through fundamentalist communities or dealt with narcissistic partners, Kody's behavior looks very familiar. It's not about romance, and it's not about redemption. It's something called narcissistic hoovering, and it's practically textbook. For those who haven't encountered it, hoovering happens when someone loses their main sources of attention and tries to pull people back in, like a vacuum sucking up its target.
The person will use apologies, promises of change, and moments of vulnerability, all designed to make their ex or former partner wonder if maybe this time things could be different. Does that sound familiar? Because that's exactly what Kody has been doing with his ex-wives. The sudden dinner invitations, the emotional apologies that sound rehearsed, the shocking admission that he never really loved them, quickly followed by backtracking. This is hoovering in action. It's not about healing, it's about control. Classic hoovering behavior designed to keep them emotionally connected and potentially available as backup options. But here's where former fundamentalists in our viewing community are raising red flags. They recognize something even more calculating at play. Kody isn't just hoovering his ex-wives for emotional supply. He's strategically maintaining them as references for prospective wife number 5. Think about it. From a potential new wife's perspective, if she's even considering joining a plural family, she's going to want answers about his past. She'll naturally ask, what happened with your other marriages? Are you still on good terms with your ex-wives? Do they support your spiritual journey? And if Kody can present himself as the injured party who's learned from his mistakes while pointing to friendly reconciliations with Mary, Janelle, and Christine, suddenly he doesn't look like the problem. He looks like a man of faith, a man refined by trial, a man ready for redemption. The so-called redemption tour has nothing to do with genuine healing. It's not about closure, forgiveness, or repairing decades of broken trust. It's about creating a portfolio of glowing references for his next romantic conquest. Every reconciliation dinner, every late-night phone call, every carefully crafted apology is essentially a job interview prep session for wife number 5. And women who've survived manipulative relationships recognize the pattern instantly. The sudden wave of interest in making things right that's tied not to actual remorse, but to cleaning up his image for the next opportunity. The perfectly timed apologies that feel less like heartfelt admissions and more like rehearsed lines for a character witness. And while Kody is pouring this energy into wooing his ex-wives and grooming a potential new wife, experienced viewers are pointing out the most chilling detail of all. The same passion, the same pursuit, the same calculated charm is completely absent from his relationships with his children. He can stage hours-long apology sessions for the cameras, but somehow can't return a single text from his own daughter. And yet the most damning proof of his real motives doesn't come from his words at all. It comes from the money trail. This isn't about love. It isn't about spiritual destiny. It's about cold, hard cash and legal maneuvering. Our digital detective didn't just track Kody's sudden romantic rebirth. She cross-checked it against property records, court filings, and custody proceedings. And what she uncovered should make every divorced woman's blood boil. The first verifiable evidence of Kody actively pursuing wife number 5, March 2024. And what else happened in March 2024? Christine officially filed for child support and custody of Truly. Coincidence? Not a chance. The pattern gets even clearer with the Coyote Pass battle. Kody's most aggressive courtship window lined up perfectly with the most heated property division negotiations. While his ex-wives were fighting tooth and nail for the assets they helped build, Kody was whispering to potential wife number 5 about the beautiful Arizona land they could use to start their sacred journey. The audacity is unreal. He was essentially advertising the very property he was still trying to keep out of his ex-wife's hands. It's like putting your house on the market while you're still in court over who actually owns it. But Kody's maneuver wasn't just bold, it was calculated. It better not slip through his hands. Sources connected to the case say that Kody's so-called redemption tour with his ex-wives, all those carefully staged apology dinners, weren't about healing at all. They were timed perfectly to line up with mediation meetings and settlement talks. Every single "I'm sorry" came just days before major legal filings or court deadlines. Anyone who has ever lived through a tough divorce recognizes this move right away. It's the same old trick. I've changed.
Let's fix this without lawyers. A clear attempt to push the other side into taking less than what's fair. Suddenly, there's a spiritual awakening. But notice how it shows up only when child support numbers are being calculated.
And then the financial deep dive uncovered something even more shocking. At the very same time Kody was claiming he couldn't afford proper property settlements with his ex-wives, he was reportedly making financial plans with a potential wife number 5. These messages allegedly included talks about where she would live, how the household's money would be divided, and what kind of financial safety net he could offer her. So let's get this straight. He's claiming poverty when it comes to providing for the children he already has, yet he's promising comfort and stability to a woman he hasn't even met face to face. His priorities clearly tilt toward his own desires over the well-being of his current family. And when this carefully pieced together timeline finally hit the Sister Wives fan base, the fallout was immediate and explosive. Picture this. A digital sleuth drops her findings into the main Sister Wives Facebook group at exactly 2:47 p.m. on a Wednesday. Within 20 minutes, the comments are on fire. Within an hour, the post had spread into quilting circles, book clubs, and group chats all across the country. By the evening, the news had reached every corner of the Sister Wives community, and the outrage was undeniable. The reaction isn't just about anger. It's about recognition. These are women who have lived through the same struggles. They've had to stretch a household budget while someone else made all the financial choices. They've watched partners pour time and energy into new relationships while ignoring responsibilities to the families they already had. They've seen emotional manipulation dressed up as some sudden spiritual awakening. They know exactly what they're looking at, and they're not buying it. The Facebook groups light up with story after story. "This is exactly what my ex did during our custody battle," one viewer posts. "He started dating before the divorce was even final, then turned around and said he couldn't afford child support." Another chimes in, "The way he courts new women while ignoring his kids' calls reminds me of my father. Same playbook, different decade." But the most powerful voices come from women who've left fundamentalist communities themselves. They recognize immediately how religious language gets twisted to justify selfish choices. "He's using faith to mask pure narcissism," explains one former plural wife. "That so-called spiritual calling is nothing but cover for wanting attention from multiple women while avoiding responsibility to the family he already has." Soon the conversation isn't just happening online. It spills over into everyday life. PTA meetings turn into quiet lessons on how to recognize manipulation inside relationships. Book clubs put their chosen novels aside to talk about the psychology of narcissistic behavior. Mothers start using Kody's actions as real-life examples to teach their daughters what red flags look like in a partner. And maybe the clearest response of all comes from moms who've watched their own children deal with the messy realities of divorced parents. They see the same patterns, the same excuses, and they're determined not to let history repeat itself. They see Truly's unanswered calls and remember their own children sitting by the phone, waiting for visits that never happened. They recognize the heartbreak of kids having to compete with their parents' new relationships just to receive basic attention and love. The collective wisdom in these groups has turned into something powerful, an educational moment that reaches far beyond the show. Women are trading real-world strategies on how to protect assets during a divorce. Former fundamentalists are breaking down the exact manipulation tactics used in patriarchal religious circles. Divorce survivors are even sharing word-for-word responses for when an ex-partner suddenly reappears with apologies in the middle of legal negotiations. The Sister Wives community itself has become a classroom in spotting patterns. These viewers aren't just watching for entertainment anymore. They're dissecting manipulation, financial control, and emotional neglect right as it happens. The internet has woken up, and the children at the center of this storm are finally gaining the advocates they've always needed. As news of Kody's so-called wife shopping spreads through the fan base, something unexpected happens. The discussion shifts. Instead of focusing on his next romantic move, the spotlight finally turns to the people most deeply affected, his children. For the first time in years, the conversation centers exactly where it should, on the kids who never chose this lifestyle, never asked for the cameras, but continue to carry the heaviest emotional weight. Insiders close to the Brown family whisper that several of the older kids are aware of the online discussion surrounding their father. While they stayed quiet publicly, sources suggest that seeing strangers recognize and validate their pain has been both overwhelming and healing. Imagine being truly scrolling through social media and realizing that thousands of women across the country are furious on her behalf. For a child who has often felt unseen, that wave of support is nothing short of life-changing. And more effort put into creating pain and hurting each other makes me angry. Complete strangers are now pointing out the very same behaviors Truly has been living through quietly. The unanswered calls, the missed events, the constant feeling of competing with her father's new relationships just to get a moment of attention. For a teenager who may have wondered if her expectations of a father were too high, this kind of public validation could be life-changing. And then there's the silence from the adult kids. That silence says more than words ever could. When grown children of a public figure consistently avoid defending their parents' behavior, it tells a story no public relations spin can erase. The fact that not one of Kody's adult kids has stepped up to dispute the claims of neglect suggests that the online community's analysis is hitting uncomfortably close to the truth. Meanwhile, the ex-wife's reactions have been subtle but telling. Christine's energy is focused entirely on her new marriage and family. That alone speaks volumes. She's not looking back. No matter how many apology dinners Kody stages, her actions show clearly where her priorities lie. Janelle's social media activity tells the story of someone wrestling with complex emotions. She hasn't mentioned the wife shopping revelations directly, but her post about self-worth and moving forward make it clear. She knows what's happening, and she's choosing her own path instead of being drawn into reconciliation games. Mary's response may be the most revealing of all. After months of cryptic posts and emotional back and forth regarding Kody, she's gone quiet. For those who understand narcissistic relationship dynamics, this silence is striking. It's the moment when the target finally recognizes the manipulation for what it is and stops feeding the cycle altogether. The wider fundamentalist community is also paying close attention. Former members of polygamous groups view Kody's behavior as a textbook example of how patriarchal systems often prioritize the leader's desires over the family's well-being. Many are now using his actions as teaching material, helping others spot these toxic patterns in their own environments. But perhaps the most important shift is this. The conversation has grown beyond gossip. It's now rooted in genuine advocacy. Viewers are raising awareness about the long-term emotional damage children suffer when parents put new romances ahead of their existing family ties. And as this groundswell of support grows, legal experts are starting to weigh in on what these revelations could mean inside a courtroom. This is where things get legally fascinating. Family law attorneys are looking at the timeline of Kody's wife shopping and seeing potential grounds for real consequences. If you're pursuing new romantic relationships while simultaneously fighting custody battles and pleading financial hardship, you've just handed opposing counsel a gift-wrapped case study in misplaced priorities. Legal specialists explain that a parent's dating behavior can absolutely affect custody rulings, especially when it shows a clear pattern of putting new relationships above their children's needs. In this case, the timeline of Kody pursuing a potential wife number 5 while ignoring his daughter's calls could be seen as powerful evidence of where his priorities truly lie. And the financial contradictions make matters worse. Courts take a harsh view of parents who claim they can't afford fair child support, while at the same time planning household budgets and financial stability for a new partner. The contradiction between "I can't provide for my children" and "here's how I'll take care of you" raises serious credibility issues that could impact multiple ongoing cases. One family law expert points out that the timing of Kody's wife shopping with property settlement negotiations could be seen as intentional. Courts don't look kindly on parents who attempt to use romantic reconciliation or spiritual language to distract from financial obligations. This revelation also chips away at his so-called redemption tour. If Christine's legal team can demonstrate that his apology dinners happened during the same period he was courting wife number 5, it undermines the idea that he was sincere. Instead, it looks like an attempt to manipulate both emotions and the legal process. For custody arrangements, this kind of documented evidence showing Kody placing new relationships above his existing children's emotional needs could influence visitation rulings. More and more, courts are recognizing that a child's emotional well-being depends on having parents who put their needs first, not their romantic pursuits. The financial fallout could be even bigger. If Kody has been openly discussing property, housing, and financial stability with a prospective new wife, while claiming poverty with his ex-wives, that becomes discoverable evidence. And once it's in front of a judge, it paints a very different picture of his actual financial capacity and true priorities. Legal experts point out that this entire situation shows exactly why family courts require financial disclosures and lifestyle reviews during divorce cases. When a parent claims they can't afford to support their children, but is clearly spending time and resources on new romantic pursuits, it becomes powerful evidence about their real priorities and financial capacity. Even more significant is the pattern that's now on record. Ignoring children's emotional needs while chasing after new relationships. That kind of evidence doesn't just affect the present, it can also play a role in future custody modifications. As children grow older and are able to express their own preferences, courts look carefully at which parent has consistently prioritized their well-being. The legal consequences are still taking shape. But the trail of evidence Kody has left behind could haunt him for years, both financially and as a father. But this revelation isn't only about the courtroom. It cuts to the heart of what was once sold to the public as a loving, plural family. The image has collapsed. Kody's wife shopping escapades while neglecting his existing children has pulled back the curtain on the truth. This was never about a spiritual calling or some higher purpose. It was about one man's unending hunger for attention, validation, and control. And the damage? It's not just temporary. Mental health professionals who work with children of divorce say that rejection during formative years leaves long-lasting scars. When kids see their parent investing energy into strangers while ignoring their needs, the message is brutal. You are not enough. That's a wound that can take a lifetime to heal. For the Sister Wives franchise itself, this creates a crisis of credibility. How do you keep producing a show called Sister Wives when the central figure is shopping for more wives while publicly claiming he's done with polygamy? The contradiction is so glaring that even loyal fans are now questioning whether the show has been genuine at all in recent years. Meanwhile, in the wider polygamous community, Kody's behavior has turned into a cautionary tale. Former members of fundamentalist groups are holding it up as proof of how patriarchal systems can enable narcissistic abuse while hiding behind the language of faith. His actions are being used to educate others about spotting the warning signs in their own lives. But maybe the most important shift is that this conversation has broken out of fan groups and become a broader discussion about modern families and parenting. Kody's choices have become a case study in what happens when a parent seeks romantic validation while sidelining their children. It's forced people to ask hard questions about priorities, parenting, and the lifelong impact of treating children as afterthoughts. For anyone watching this unfold, here's the checklist. If someone claims financial hardship with their kids, but spends freely on new partners, that's manipulation. If the apologies line up perfectly with legal deadlines, that's strategy, not sincerity. If a parent makes time for potential spouses, but not their own children, that reveals their true priorities. And here lies the ultimate irony. In trying to rebuild his empire of attention and control, Kody has instead created the most damaging public record of his character imaginable. Every message to potential wife number 5, every ignored call from his children, every staged apology to his ex-wives, it's all documented and it's all being dissected by thousands of women who know exactly what manipulation looks like. At the center of all this, the children deserve better. They deserve a father who chooses their needs over his ego, who offers stability, consistency, and love without conditions. Whether Kody is capable of providing that is still unknown, but at least now, thanks to this massive wave of public attention, his kids know that thousands of people see their worth, recognize their pain, and are rooting for their healing. So what do you think? Will Kody actually manage to convince someone to become wife number 5? Or is this nothing more than another calculated stunt to keep the spotlight on him? And here's the bigger question. Which outcome do you find most satisfying? Potential custody changes or the financial reckoning he's about to face? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, and keep notifications on because this story is far from over. Trust me, the next round of Sister Wives revelations is already lining up, and it's bound to be even more explosive.